Today I received my Redline Lumtronix headlights. I won the Cruise the Coast 2023 giveaway for the 7-inch single color white halo. It says turn signal, so it might have a turn signal on it. Please send pictures once these are installed. Congratulations from us. New headlights. These guys are really cool. I'm going to open it on the bottom. Alright, so we got some connectors here. About to take a look at instructions and stuff. Alright, all I'm doing now is I'm taking out the old headlights and putting the new ones in. And apparently we did use H4 connectors before, but it only went to the headlight, and then after the headlight it went to junction box, I think it's called. Alright, here I'm just taking apart the other headlight. First you have to remove the bezel or trim that goes on the outside. It's rather easy, but it might be harder if your tabs are rusty. Then I remove the retainer ring for the actual headlight. It takes just a standard flathead screwdriver. Two of the bolts that are part of the bigger part of the housing, they don't need to come out. All you gotta do is loosen them and then push them off to the side. And you can see I'm putting the screws onto a magnet dish I got from Harbor Freight. I got it for free, but they normally cost about like $4, so they're really worth it for the $4. And you can get bigger sizes as well. That one is a 4-inch dish. And then back here, I'm trying to take off the connector. It was a little hard. The connections were a little rusted up, but they worked. The bracket that holds the light to the bracket that goes to the truck, this one had a little bit of rust on it. The only bad spot was right here. You can see all how this metal is pitted. I'm not going to slap Bondo on it. I'm just going to paint over it. You're not going to see this anyway, and Bondo's not going to do anything for it. Now I'm working on painting these brackets. I've already repainted those ones, and now I'm just waiting for them to dry. On this one, there's rust here, and that's all the rust on here. And there's some other spots I need to work on. I'll sand these down. I'm using this rotary sander here. I have this Rust-Oleum paint here. It's the same color as the original, or it's about the same color. It's smoke gray. It's gloss protective. It says 30% greater than, I guess, their common sprays. Has corrosion resistance and color retention. Those are the new brackets. Let's compare the colors. This one just looks dull, but that one looks brighter. I'm going to sand down the rusted areas or bad areas, and then I'm going to put rust remover gel on it. Then I'm going to wipe it off and spray paint it. I'm not doing anything too crazy. All I did was just lightly sand all the rusted spots and water spots. And under this paint, it looks decent. There's a little bit of rust, but that's nothing we can't fix. Make sure you paint the inside first, then the outside. Of course, tape off your connectors. Oh, hold on, I forgot about that rust. Let me take care of that real quick. Alright, my parts have been drying for about an hour now. This is the original. The first one I painted. It's a little darker than this one over here. But that's because I put on some extra coats. It doesn't matter too much, you're not going to see these parts anyways. This trim here, I looked on Brothers and LMC, and these parts do not have cracks in them, brand new. So these have definitely held up really well over time, and they still haven't broken yet, but they're getting close too. These aren't moving parts, so I don't know why these are cracked unless someone purposefully cut into them or it's just given out over time. Now I'm reinstalling everything. First I install the spring, then I push it down. Make sure these are out enough so that you can slide this back into the bracket. And then you're going to want to tighten these down. Also, to keep the screws in place and prevent them from slipping down here, just put your thumb against it and tighten it down with your other hand. Also make sure you're tightening up both slowly. So tighten this one a little, then tighten this one a little. Don't tighten one down all the way and then do the other, because then it'll end up being uneven and bending the bracket. So take your time with it. I've reinstalled this just for testing purposes. So once I reinstall a new headlight and an old headlight, I want to compare the brightness. Alright, the reason that it was so hard to unplug and plug in the connectors is that these wires here, they have connectors on them. And the way to take them out is you put a screwdriver, flathead, put it through here on the bottom. You can see that little tab there sticking out. You just push that in and then you pull the wire out. These pins here, they were like bent in more so that it wouldn't grab on as well. So I bent them out using this other flathead, which has a flatter tip. So I just pushed it under there and it bent it up more. So now it plugs easier onto this. Now I'm going to do that with all of the connectors here. And this one here is also giving me issues. And this is the plug that goes to the light bulb. I'm just looking at these now, and they look more like spade connectors in here. They're like what's in that H4 connector, that black one. Except you've seen what they look like. They're flat. They don't have this curve here that goes down. What's in there, in the pigtails that were included, these curve down, making it harder to plug in. It was a little harder than to plug in and unplug than those other connectors. I understand it's easier to find these plugs. I guess I'll just use these other connectors since that's what we have already and they plug in easily. Alright, moment of truth. Let's see how well these connect now. This goes on top and these go on the outside. That's perfect. Alright, I had to remove this rubber boot because otherwise there wouldn't be any clearance to put the light in. I guess I might be able to grind this down. It is currently 12 a.m. I've been up for about an hour now. I guess I could, I want to grind away a little more, but I can now get the headlight in here. I did not grind it away perfectly because I don't really have all the right tools. I used a angle grinder and then that Dremel with a small bit on it. I also used the metal grinding bit on it, but it wore down because it was old. But yeah, this pretty much fits in there. I just need to grind away the top a little more. And after I do that, I'll paint it. Just so that it stays protected from rust. This is the original color, by the way. That fits right on there. And I'm not worried about the play in it, because the retainer ring is going to hold the headlight in place. I think this needs to come down a little more, actually. Like that. Yeah, I want to... Hold on. Let me turn this a little. Need to line up the boot pull tab, whatever, with that. And it's lined up. Alright, I'll throw a picture up on the screen of the wiring diagram I'm looking at. But the low beam is on the bottom, which is going to be this, like, almost purplish wire. And this green wire is going to be the high beam, and the black one's going to be the ground. And I need to switch the green and the black places. So what we do is just take a small flathead screwdriver, push it in there, and there's tabs. If you're paying attention, there's tabs that hold these connectors in place. Alright, so the ground, which is black, needs to go left here. Or no, this is the right. Yeah. Push that through till it clicks. Now, there's multiple wiring diagrams you can find, but this one's the best one because it's really self-explanatory. Alright, so the high beam is green. Remember that. Low beam is this purplish wire. In this picture, it's yellow. I recommend using yellow. And then ground is black, of course. That's usually the color that the ground is always going to be. Now I'm reinstalling the headlights. I didn't take a picture, unfortunately, of what the wiring looked like beforehand, but we're going to pay attention to this diagram here. There's a wire right here saying battery on light switch to ammeter. I'm thinking that we need to use a battery wire on that. Since we removed the old ignition switch, it had all these fork connectors on it, and when I disconnected that, like, everything else came off, and I had no idea or no way to trace where they went. Alright, I've finished up the wiring here for the headlight switch. This is an original part here, so it might look a little weird to you. It has 9 pins, and I will tell you which one is which. I've already labeled these for myself. So this one here, this goes to your dome light. This one here goes to the stop lights on the fuse box. These trucks didn't originally come with turn signals. I've looked in the factory manual. They didn't have turn signals. This one was already wired to this turn signal by my papa. Then on the left side here we have 3 different terminals. We got the headlight on switch. It says headlight on light switch to battery on dimmer switch. So basically it just goes to your headlights and then it goes to the dimmer as well, I think. This purple one here goes to your taillights on to the stop and tail fuse box, which is also what this orange one goes to. Now these are your running lights basically. So when you're driving at night, that's what keeps your taillights on. Then this last one up here, these are your parking lights. So if you pull this out once, it has your parking lights on it. If you pull it out again, it turns your headlights on. And then behind this instrument gauge here, you have your dimmer switch. This one goes to your dash gauge lights. So when you pull this out and then turn it to the left, it will increase the brightness of the lights. Now I need to rewire these because these have like really short wires. And this one is your power. So this goes from your accessory switch on the ignition, or it can go to your fuse block. I'll show you where the stop and tail light fuses are. They came with the truck from the factory. The only fuses we have are for the stop and tail light fuses and for that turn signal. Here I turn the key to the accessories so that electricity is being sent to the light switch.
Yo, they're on! They're on!
Now there's also supposed to be this halo just around it. Now I'm wearing the actual LEDs. I got my wire from Amazon for about $17. It's 100 feet of 18 gauge. And at O'Reilly's or any auto store, you'd find 18 gauge wire only in 30 feet and for like $12. Unfortunately, this is the wrong size wire. This is 18 gauge, and I believe this is like 20. That's okay, I'll just use that. It won't matter because I'm going to have a fuse on it either way. But what I've done is I've taken the ground wires and I've put them together. Then I have each of the positive wires on their own. What I'm going to do for the blinker is I'm going to have inline fuses, so also to make the wires fit inside of other connectors, like bigger connectors, such as these fork connectors which I'll be using. These ones are blue, which means they take bigger gauge wires, such as 16 to 14. And since this is 18, it's going to be too small to fit in here normally. So I've cut more wire off so that it fills up the connector, because otherwise it would just slip off if I crimped it down. So these spade crimp connectors, you have to crimp the terminal first and then use a heat gun. I do have a heat gun, but a lot of these outlets aren't even trustable in here. That's why I like using cordless stuff. I just used a ladder. You just have to be careful to not actually cause a fire on this. And since I don't have any fuel around here, it's perfectly fine. We're going to have the fuse right up here. I'm going to grab one of my wiring splicers. It bites into each of the cables, and then the current of the electricity goes through this. We're going to put the connector on the low beams, because the high beams, we're not going to want the LEDs on with high beams, because one, can't even look at it, and two, it'll draw less amps going through the low beams. And plus, when I install my daylight running lights, the low beams are always going to be on. That's also another reason. After installing the fuse, I just taped the connectors together so that next time I install a fuse, I don't have to grab each connector and put them on the fuse. Let's turn on the accessories. Alright. So if I pull this out once, twice. Alright, halos are on. Oh yeah, baby. Look at that. The way I wired the headlights and the halo and the blinker, I had only one 10 amp fuse for the blinkers. And the blinkers use both a parking light and then the actual blinker. So the parking light wires to the headlight switch, and then the blinker wires to the blinker switch. But since now we have two on this, the blinker and the headlight on this, I cross the parking lights with the blinker. If you want to have the connections for the fuse to be like together, you could buy an inline fuse, but all that uses is the spade connectors, and then it has a little housing, and that's a waste of money. Like, it's $10 for just an inline fuse when you can just make one for like a few cents. But I think this just looks nice. We can test it out now. This is the headlight. I meant to wire the headlight first, but I messed up because I didn't label my wires. I finished wiring everything. I have the blinkers wired, and I have the halos wired. The only issue I ran into was the parking lights. There was, on the junction box, the parking light connector, it had one wire going from the switch for the parking light. That one was fine, but it connected to the left blinker. The same connector that was for the parking lights on the junction box, there was another wire going from it to the other headlight. And so when the blinker was on, it was sending the power from the blinker. It was sending it through the yellow wire all the way to the other blinker, causing it to basically act as emergency flashers. Both lights were blinking at the same time. So that caused an issue. All you have to do is connect one parking light wire to one blinker, and then you can just take another wire either directly from the switch or splice a connection before it gets to the blinker, because you don't want both lights going off at the same time. Otherwise, people aren't going to know which way you're turning. So that's the only issue I had. I didn't finish wiring the parking lights because it's not a big deal to me. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was very fun to mess with these lights, and I'm glad I won these. The US-based company, based in Mississippi, and really high quality headlights. I wasn't sponsored at all. I just won these headlights, and I really like them. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe if you want to see more content on this truck. Share this video with your friends or to anyone you think might like this.